Today on the podcast, I'm bringing you some really interesting news that might not be so good for DALL-E and Midjourney, and that is that MIT's new generative AI outperforms diffusion models in image generation. Now, before you say, this is the death of Midjourney and OpenAI's DALL-E 3, I'll talk a little bit and break down some of the nuances that are at play here. But this is a really important move, and I think this is really interesting as we're starting to see, major universities and other educational and research facilities coming out with really interesting tools in this space. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Welcome to the world's #1 AI podcast, AI Chat. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Make sure that you go to aibox.ai, link in the show notes, to join the waitlist for our new AI platform. We're going to be launching an incredible platform that allows you to build anything you want with workflows in AI. So you're able to chain together ChatGPT and image generators and audio generators to make really powerful apps for your organization, or you can host them on our marketplace and actually generate royalties from them. So make sure to go to aibox.ai and join the waitlist. In addition, if you like the podcast, if you could do me a massive favor and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps me be able to get better guests on here as they check the reviews to see how you guys are liking it. So if you could please do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. In a breakthrough that elevates the potential for generative AI, a research team from MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory has engineered a pioneering AI model known as Poisson Flow Generative Model. So they also call it PFGM. But this innovation seamlessly kind of blends two different physical laws, diffusion and Poisson flow, which is the new thing that they're developing here. And so if anyone knows for those that don't know what diffusion is, like real quick, essentially when you're using a diffusion model to generate an image, think of it like you start with a blank canvas that, you give your prompt of what you want it to generate on. Then it essentially creates 1 million pixels. And it's doing the same thing where it's predicting where each pixel and color should be, same way that ChatGPT is predicting not even what words should be said next, but what pieces of words. That's how ChatGPT is predicting what to say. So it's doing the same kind of thing, except it's predicting what colors and pixels should go on a screen. And it's called diffusion because it starts super pixelated and it slowly kind of essentially comes into focus where it generates over and over and over again and brings the image to life. And through this iterative process and multiple steps, kind of goes from it's this diffusion model. That's how diffusion models work. What's really interesting is that MIT seems to be enhancing the technology with a new tech, which is the Poisson flow. So because of that, the AI can produce intricate and high quality patterns, including realistic images and a whole bunch of other applications. So Poisson flow and diffusion models have always been on opposite ends of the generative AI spectrum. So while the former is robust but also complicated, the latter is simpler but lacks robustness. So PFGM++, which is what they're calling it, cleverly finds the middle ground and balancing ease of use with robust performance. So essentially it achieves this by expanding on the team. They did some prior work with the Poisson Flow generative model, and they're adding a extra dimension to the model's mathematical architecture. So this kind of creates more room for data maneuvering and facilitating and kind of an all-encompassing approach to data interpretation and generation. So this whole extra dimension, I don't think it's actually just a gimmick or anything. Essentially what it does is it takes some inspiration from the century-old theory in physics that speculates they speculate on the existence of additional dimensions in space-time. So Jesse Thaler, who is the theoretical, particle physicist at MIT, said, quote, PFGM++ is an example of the kind of AI advances that can be driven through interdisciplinary collaboration between physicists and computer science. So Thaler, who's not involved in this particular project, adds that the model turns these old physics concepts into, quote, a powerful and robust tool to generate synthetic but realistic data sets. So essentially, the model treats data points as though they were electric charges situated in a higher dimensional plane. So essentially, this imagined electric field aids in the process of data generation. So what's, I think, particularly noteworthy is how PFGM++ evolves to resemble diffusion models when these dimensions are expanded further, blurring the lines between the two contrasted generative approaches. So the team even introduces a new training methodology to better teach the model how to mimic this electric field, making the learning process more efficient. I think this is like so incredibly fascinating and interesting. Where we're seeing this really impressive advancement is like we're literally blending, we're literally getting physicists to work with, computer science majors. And I think there's so many areas in AI that are going to rapidly advance. We don't even know all the ways they're advancing because up to this point, like a majority of this technology has been made exclusively with computer scientists who, of course, are, profoundly smart and, working on really interesting concepts and bringing us really incredible technology. But I think really bringing this whole interdisciplinary approach, we're bringing physicists and we're bringing all sorts of people from all sorts of different areas in to work with these AI data scientists. We're finding new ways to do things and really interesting results are coming out of this. So I think to validate the efficacy of this PFGM++, the MIT team resolved differential equations to describe the motion of these charges within the electric field. Then they assessed the quality of the generated images using the Frechat inception distance score, which is, it's kind of like a commonly accepted metric, but pretty much the model just showed higher resilience to errors, and it was particularly robust in terms of the differential equation step sizes. So the tech industry right now is super excited about this and kind of about some of the potential applications. Yang Song, research scientist at OpenAI, essentially said PFGM++ presents a really powerful generalization of diffusion models, allowing users to generate higher quality images by improving the robustness of image generation against perturbations and learning errors. So in NVIDIA's senior research scientist, who is Karsten Kraus, not involved in the project at all, but just kind of like commenting on it, also was, pretty much praising it and saying that its, practical performance is really impressive and kind of envisions its use in various fields from digital content creation to generative drug discovery. So it's interesting too that this isn't just for image generation. Like there's a lot of other applications of this technology and, blending this with AI. So I think the research was undertaken by MIT graduate students Yulan Zhu and Ziming Liu and also Shengyu Tong, along with Google senior research scientist Tonglong Tian, PhD, I think this year. And essentially they were advised by MIT professor Max Timark. A bunch of other people worked on this, including the MIT IBM Watson AI Lab, and their findings were presented at the International Conference on Machine Learning just this summer. So as for kind of what lies ahead, the team right now is really focusing on refining it, particularly focusing on tailoring the quote-unquote sweet spot value of its dimensions for specific tasks and data types. And they also aim to expand its application into larger scale text to image and also text to video generation. This is something that to me is so exciting, right? Like I think we all can agree Midjourney and DALL-E 3, whatever, like really impressive for image. But the next kind of frontier that really hasn't been, in my opinion, conquered, is video. And, we have companies like Runway that of course are doing really impressive AI video generation stuff. But like if you've used it, it's not like hyper realistic in the same way that Midjourney is. And so I think anything that kind of expedites that is really exciting. I think there's so many cool applications when that video, AI video comes out. You could essentially direct your own movie, pick the actors, pick the plot line, all sorts of exciting and interesting concepts that I think will be very popular in the future that today is obviously, not on 99% of people's radars. I think it's clear that the PFGM++ model marks a really substantial leap in generative AI technology. And essentially, it's just bridging the gap between physics and computer science. I think by doing this, it opens up a whole bunch of new avenues for creating more intricate and realistic patterns, and it is really kind of laying the groundwork for future innovations in a bunch of different domains. So a very exciting project and area will continue to follow.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate me wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure you check out our Discord channel and also our Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can actually share software tools, prompts that we're using in everyday AI. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.